Where is your emergency?
I have almost a 2-year-old daughter. She's not breathing.
In this episode of Scripps News Investigates.
And then the plastic thing he was chewing on was fentanyl.
Yeah. We explore how the fentanyl crisis is taking aim at this nation's most vulnerable.
He needs Narcan. It's fentanyl.
Our children.
There's not a day goes by that I don't still see her dead in my arms.
If you think that child labor in America is a thing of the past, you'll want to see this report.
How old are your kids that work on the farm?
Mi niño tiene 8 años, el más grande, y mi chiquitita tiene 6.
It's very young.
Sí.
Our months-long investigation reveals an underage labor crisis on the rise.
Hidden from public view on these streets is a secret that captured the attention of the U.S. government. Can I come in?
Come inside, come inside.
We see for ourselves what China has been accused of doing in the heart of a major American city.
More than 1 million people in this country have died from drug overdoses in the past 2 decades. Fueling this epidemic in recent years is an opioid called fentanyl. It's a highly addictive drug that's 100 times stronger than morphine. It was created more than a half-century ago and is often used as a powerful painkiller for cancer patients. But fentanyl is now considered the single deadliest drug threat this nation has ever encountered. When you think of some of its victims, small children may not come to mind, but we found hundreds of overdose cases involving babies and toddlers, children too young to know they're picking up a lethal drug. It's this epidemic's silent toll.
Forward kisses.
It was just a few days before Christmas in 2019 when 22-month-old Madison Stodolsky snuggled up on the couch and fell asleep with her mother for the last time.
911, where is your emergency?
I have almost a 2-year-old daughter. She's not breathing.
The little girl's mother, Sassy Stodolsky, was doing CPR as she called 911.
Come on, baby. Madison, come on.
But it wasn't enough to bring her child back to life. Sassy was a heroin user married to a drug dealer, but when police tried to piece together what happened just hours later, she says it never crossed her mind that the fentanyl she used could be her daughter's killer.
Is there any possibility that there could be any drugs that accidentally entered her system?
No, sir.
But that's exactly what happened. And now Sassy has nothing but time to reflect on the day her baby took her last breath.
Okay, she should be on her way up. I just called the housing unit.
We met Sassy inside this prison where she's now serving 10 years for her daughter's death.
There's not a day goes by that I don't close my eyes and still see her dead in my arms. She never got to have friends. Like, having to think about all that is the worst pain in the world.
How much had you thought about, I have a child, this stuff is very deadly?
When you're in addiction, you think you're being careful and it doesn't cross your mind. I thought that she was going to be fine because we always kept it away from her. I always washed my hands. I just hope that if people are using and have children that they do get help and do not lie when someone tries to help you.
Our investigation found the story of Madison's overdose is similar to hundreds of others around the country, many involving children who were in their own homes, nestled right next to their mom or dad when they came in contact with fentanyl. Scripps News individually examined more than 260 recent reports of child fentanyl poisonings involving near deaths and fatalities, and found about half involved families like Madison's who had previous contact with Child Protective Services or police.
I know this is traumatic for you.
To try to better understand how warning signs were missed and how to prevent more of these tragedies, we dug through interrogation videos, body camera footage,
It's like he's gasping for air.
and listened to 911 calls from around the country.
Hey, can you breathe for me? Hey, drop it. He needs Narcan. It's fentanyl.
Our investigation tracked how critical the opioid antidote Narcan can be in saving a child's life. In the hundreds of cases we reviewed, we found at least 90 incidents where it worked when it was administered in time. That includes the recent incident at a Bronx, New York daycare, where authorities say 4 children were poisoned by fentanyl. 3 of those kids survived after being revived with Narcan. But repeatedly, our investigation found incidents in which children died after authorities said their caregivers wasted precious minutes waiting to call for help.
Opiate. He might have got into an opiate.
In Scottsdale, Arizona, this mother pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder charges after authorities accused her of waiting more than an hour before calling 911. A police report alleges she also Googled whether she'd go to jail for reporting her child's overdose.
Fire department.
Come in. I got up and everything was all over the bed and he was on top of me.
One of the other key mistakes we found is that caregivers are often accused of leaving drugs within easy reach of a curious child.
When I turned back around, he had the bag of pills in his hand and he was chewing up.
And he swallowed a pill. I think he took one of my pills.
In hundreds of court documents we reviewed, we found drugs left on coffee tables, in a desk, lying next to candy, in a jewelry box. In the Bronx daycare, investigators said they found a brick of fentanyl stored on top of children's playmats. In other cases, kids also got a hold of items used to take drugs, like straws, foils, baggies, and syringe caps.
It was in the bag.
This Kentucky mom said she left drugs in her purse before she fell asleep with her child.
Yeah, that was in the bag. And the plastic thing he was chewing on was fentanyl.
Yeah.
Her son, 2-year-old Jackson, did not survive.
Like anything that can harm a child, you have to keep it away from the kid somehow.
Julie Gaither is an assistant professor of pediatrics at Yale School of Medicine. She spent months researching how the fentanyl epidemic is impacting children. Her work found a nearly 6-fold surge in deaths between 2018 and 2021 involving children who were 4 and younger.
Wouldn't leave a knife out on the counter. Don't leave opioids out on the counter. The other thing is to have Narcan.
You just have very limited time to get in there and to make a difference.
Pennsylvania Congresswoman Madeleine Dean carries Narcan in her purse. The Democrat is a mother whose son struggled with opioid addiction for several years, but has since turned his life around.
Why shouldn't every family be that lucky? Why shouldn't every family be that blessed? Treating fentanyl.
The Congresswoman is a chairperson on the Bipartisan Fentanyl Prevention Caucus, established this past spring to address the nationwide spike in overdoses. She told us she would share what our investigation found with the caucus.
As you continue your reporting and discovery, if we can see patterns, see where communities are more successful in protecting babies, please share that with us. And I've spoken directly to the president about the issue of addiction and overdose. I will be determined to share what you're finding around this set of tragedies.
The motivation to help others is also something Sassy Studalski is now dedicated to doing, even from prison. She's now part of a program that teaches other young women about Madison's tragedy. She wants substance users to know not to be afraid of the pain that may come with getting help.
I just want them to know that the withdrawals that you think you're going to go through, that pain, is nothing compared to having everything ripped away from you.
It may be hard to imagine, but there was a time in this country when it was common to find children as young as the age of 5 working long hours in grueling jobs. You might think that doesn't happen anymore since the U.S. government restricted underage work nearly a century ago. But all year long, Scripps News has been investigating reports of child labor violations nationwide. Wherever we went, we uncovered troubling new evidence that child labor in America is on the rise.
These are all blueberry fields here.
At the height of the blueberry season here in North Carolina, the fields are bursting with one of this country's favorite superfoods. We came to the southeast part of the state to try to see who's harvesting them. And and what we found was shocking.
How many children work on the blueberry farm with you?
Dos.
This undocumented mother of 2 children agreed to talk to us as long as we concealed her family's identity.
And how old are your kids that work on the farm?
Mi niño tiene 8 años, el más grande, y mi chiquitita tiene 6 y tanto.
It's very young.
Sí.
She showed us a photo on her phone of her 8-year-old son at work, bucket in hand. When school let out for summer, she said the boy and his younger sister began picking blueberries with her. We could see signs of the black sandy soil on the 6-year-old's small feet.
Llego a trabajar porque mi esposo no está bien de salud y está enfermo, y a veces él llegó aquí a 2, 3 meses atrás que él no trabajó y vimos la necesidad de pagar la renta. Ya ve que no vivimos en un lugar que es de nosotros. Y
the mother explained on the farm she can watch her kids while they help make ends meet. Every bucket of blueberries is worth a few dollars. But she says the days are long, about 10 hours, and the summer heat can be intense.
Mi niña ayer le dio mucho dolor de cabeza, incluso ayer en la noche se estaba quejando y que le dolía la cabeza y no aguantaba.
But to see where the problem of underage labor is even worse, we traveled about 1,400 miles west to Grand Island, Nebraska.
These are clearly workers arriving for the 11 o'clock start of the graveyard shift.
We staked out the main entrance to this meatpacking plant known as JBS Beef to try to get a glimpse of the workers showing up here. A few months earlier, the U.S. Department of Labor did the same thing after receiving a tip from law enforcement. When inspectors went inside, they found more than 24 underage contract employees, including this minor. One was as young as 13. All worked for a company called PSSI, which contracts with meatpacking companies to clean factories overnight. These federal records we obtained describe teens here suffering injuries from chemical burns, then going to school and falling asleep in class. One 17-year-old quit high school because they were working and tired from cleaning. This 65-year-old man we met works at the Grand Island plant for JBS and agreed to speak to us about what he saw. He asked not to be identified out of concern he would jeopardize his job by speaking to the media.
Hay un pasillo grande después de mi línea, es la última, y pasaban y sí miraba unos que tenían menos edad.
We learned overnight crews would clean up blood and animal parts on the kill room floor and sanitize heavy equipment.
Is the work dangerous?
Yo digo que sí, porque ellos trabajan muchos químicos. Los que lavan trabajan químicos.
In all, inspectors found 27 underage workers here in Grand Island and dozens more at 12 other PSSI locations across the nation. Child labor violations like these are up 44% in the past year as employers look to children to help fill jobs that adults increasingly don't want. And it's often an open secret in the communities where it happens.
We knew.
James Callahan has been the priest at St. Mary's Catholic Church in Worthington, Minnesota for more than 12 years. Just a few miles away, federal investigators found 22 underage kids working graveyard shifts at this meatpacking plant.
How long, Father, did you know that there were young people working those jobs in the plant?
Oh, since I've been here. I mean, this isn't something new.
12 years?
Yeah, I mean, and even before.
Did you ever think of calling the police or the Department of Labor or someone over the years to stop this?
No, because my first concern was for the individuals. It wasn't to make a policy change.
It's up to Congress to make those policy changes, but it falls to the U.S. Department of Labor to carry them out. People like Michael Lazzari. He's a regional administrator for the Wage and Hour Division at the Labor Department. He led the investigation into PSSI that ended with the company paying $1.5 million in civil penalties.
Why did it take the Department of Labor so long to detect child labor at PSSI and to act?
For an agency like ours, where we have 10 million employers, we can't be everywhere.
He told us the government has to rely on employers to follow the law and employees to blow the whistle when they see child labor.
How do these kids walk by a guard station in a facility so young, walking into plants every day? How come no one picked up the phone? I have questions about that. That to me is concerning.
Does this case
show that the Department of Labor needs to be doing more?
We are doing everything we can to amp up our efforts to be able to root out child labor where we know it could be.
As those enforcement efforts continue, authorities are finding how widespread underage labor has become in this country.
What's your favorite sport?
In North Carolina, the 8-year-old boy we met still makes time to just be a kid. His mother says she knows the work takes a heavy toll on both of her children, and she hopes one day they can escape these fields for better lives.
Y ahora los llevo para que ellos digan si es cierto, para que ellos se dan cuenta y que le echen ganas más a sus escuelas. Yo siempre digo a mis hijos, no van a pasar como nosotros.
Lessons that come from a life of hard work, beginning at a tender age.
When a Chinese spy balloon slowly floated across the United States this past winter, long simmering tensions with Beijing boiled over. It took a U.S. fighter jet to shoot down the balloon over the Atlantic Ocean before that crisis came to an end. But it's not the only time in recent months that China has been accused of violating America's sovereignty. Earlier this year, we investigated a secret Chinese police outpost located in the heart of a major American city. Hidden from public view on these busy streets is a secret that captured the attention of the U.S. government. That secret first came to light when the locations of more than 100 suspected Chinese police service stations were revealed by a European human rights organization. Chinese law enforcement is accused of having set up these outposts to track, harass, and repatriate Chinese citizens. Here in the U.S., the FBI set its sights on Manhattan's Chinatown, a single building that's home to a Chinese outfit known as the America Shangla Association. It promotes itself as a place that helps Chinese nationals in New York. But attorney Mike Gao says something more nefarious is at play.
Shangla Association #1 job is getting personal information and give the Chinese government.
Gao once worked in China's public security ministry, conducting criminal investigations. But after participating in protests against the Chinese government in Tiananmen Square in 1989, he fled to the U.S. Now he represents Chinese citizens in New York who say they've been targeted because of their wealth or history of descent, and that the Shangla Association acts as a long arm of China.
They even say we have camera everywhere, we take a video everywhere, and we can send this stuff back to China.
Are they going after men and women, young and old?
They don't care whether or not you're a man or a woman, a young man or older man, they don't care.
This client, Mao Hua Yan, knows what it's like to be threatened on U.S. soil. He showed us a photo that he says police in China texted him about 2 years ago, after he refused to return. It's a picture of my daughter, caged, he says. He was so frightened of what the authorities might do next, he stopped communicating with his family in China. We wanted to see if Shangla associates were involved in the same kind of intimidation campaign, so we headed to the outpost. From the outside, there's no indication of what may be going on here. It's surrounded by stores, restaurants, hotels, the everyday bustle of New York. I'm a reporter. Can I come in?
Come inside, come inside.
Hello, how are you? When he saw our camera, he hid.
Sorry, I'm not good, sorry.
Can we come in?
You call my boss.
We asked for his boss's business card. The name on the card, Jimmy Liu, a campaign donor to lawmakers. We called, texted, and emailed.
Please leave your message.
He did not respond. But we did find this video in Chinese media. And in it, Liu announces that his association was entrusted with setting up a police department inside the Shangla Association. And we also found this image of Shangla associates inside the office, with a banner announcing an overseas police service station posted in Chinese Communist Party media. But during our visit, the banner was gone. In a statement to Scripps News, the spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Washington denied the existence of police stations, saying they help with driver's license renewals. They're not police personnel from China. There's no need to make people nervous about this. But China experts we talked to for this story say New York is likely a pilot project for the rest of America. Where else in the country do you see this happening?
Everywhere. Los Angeles and Chicago, Miami, everywhere, Boston, and even DC.
Since our report first aired, the Justice Department arrested 2 Shangla associates in New York for conspiring with the Chinese government and destroying evidence, the first time criminal charges have been brought in connection with China's secret police outposts anywhere in the world.
For 100 years now, journalists at Scripps have been guided by the same words: give light and the people will find their own way. Today, we have more than 60 stations nationwide, and every broadcast we do is committed to harnessing those resources to bring you original reporting that stays true to that century-old mission. That's it for this edition of Scripps News Investigates. Thank you for joining us.